Power 93.7 WBLK. I'm Yasmin Young. This is the 2 to 6 Takeover. Just to let you know, April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. And as we go through this coronavirus pandemic, there are a lot of worries about children being in abusive situations and, tempers are flaring, there's a lot of worry, and we want to give you the tools and resources that you need to prevent this. And I've got the pleasure of having Rebecca Stevens. She's the director of the Child Advocacy Center at Best Self with me. And Rebecca, first of all, welcome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So let's talk about this as it relates to the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah, so I think the struggle that we're having now with the issue of child abuse because of the isolation or the quarantine, people really being told to stay indoors as most as they can, is that 90% of children are abused by people that they know, love, and trust. So what could be happening now, or at least what we know has happened in past times of national crisis, is that when children are isolated in their homes with their abusers, that abuse is happening at a more rapid pace, and there aren't people around them for those children to feel safe reporting that this is happening so the children can get help.
Okay, which that to me, and I don't even have children, sounds like a super scary thought. What can these children do? I mean, if you're talking about a child that maybe isn't old enough to really realize what's happening, or if you're talking about a child that is old enough, what can they do? Because I know a lot of times our young folks feel like they're powerless, like they don't have a voice. So how can they help themselves?
That's a great question. I think in times like these, the really important message that we want to get out both to children and to community members and family members is really just to stay connected. I think the good news for today is that most kids have access to things like cell phones and texting, or maybe email, or maybe they could FaceTime with a family member or text a family member to say, hey, I'm in trouble, or hey, I need help. I think it's important that children know who are the safe people in their community that they can reach out to, and that they should if they're feeling afraid or like they're in danger. And the same thing for our community members, our neighbors, and our family members. If you have had a gut feeling that something might be wrong, maybe now is a more important time to check in with those neighbors, to check in with those loved ones and say, hey, how's everything going? Or could you put little Johnny on the phone so I can chat with him for a second? I think it's really important that because we're so disconnected, that we try to force ourselves to be connected as much as we can to our loved ones and to our community so that we are doing our best to keep each other safe in these times.
And I think you really touched on a point, because I'm reading the statistics. About 4 out of 5 abusers are the victim's parents, which means that if they are home for extended period of time with their parents, they're not able to maybe contact their teacher as they normally would. They're not able to, communicate with these safe adults that they normally might be able to. That can be a dire situation.
Absolutely. We know that nationally, only 12% of the calls that Child Protective Services receives reporting that abuse is happening are actually made by parents. Most of those calls come from pediatricians, from teachers, from law enforcement officers, or from other community social workers that kids interact with. So parents are really unlikely to either report on themselves or report on their partner or their spouse. So it becomes more important in times like these where there aren't those professionals involved in their lives that maybe siblings or grandparents or aunts and uncles or neighbors really step forward to be the good community members and really taking care of the most vulnerable members of our community, the ones that don't really have a voice to step up and protect themselves.
Absolutely. Is there a number, a hotline number? Where can people, if they suspect that this is happening, is there a number that they can reach out to and talk to someone about it?
Absolutely. So there's a couple numbers I can give you. First, obviously, if you think that something is happening right this minute, 911, always call the police. They're still responding to crisis. The New York State mandatory reporters line for Child Protective Services, if you think that CPS needs to go to a home to investigate, would be 1-800-342-3720. And certainly the number for the Child Advocacy Center, we aren't a 24-hour hotline, but we are available to answer questions. That number is 886-5437.
I appreciate it. This information is so important. It's always important, but especially at this time when our children are, in the home and they might not have any other way of getting the help that they need. So, Rebecca, thank you. And thank you, your whole entire staff at Best Self. We appreciate everything that you all are doing on behalf of the community and especially the children. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
And if you missed those numbers, I've got those on our website, WBLK.com.